Hi, this is Jerry. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm painting this quiet river scene with a lone boatman drifting through the mist. And right from the start I want to show you a few things that aren't always taught but can make a huge difference to the success of a watercolour. The first is simple. Before I drew anything, I gave the whole sheet a very light wash of Payne's grey and let it dry. Now that's subtle, but it unifies the painting and gives the mist somewhere to live. That's one of the little watercolour secrets behind this piece. Once that wash was dry, I added my outline drawing. And if you'd like to follow along, the outline is available on my website. Another small secret is the pencil line I leave to mark where the tree trunks will be. I paint around it and only erase it at the very end, which leaves those clean white trunks without masking or tricks. Everything you see here is pure watercolour. No pens, no gouache, no gimmicks. There's just brush, pigment and timing. And I'll talk you through the colours I'm using and how I keep the edges soft to create that gentle eastern feel in the landscape. So let's begin painting. So now that the paper's prepared, I'm starting with the big shapes. Now before you think about trees or boats, think about the overall value pattern. Big shapes first, details later. This is where the painting's success is decided. This is Payne's grey and a little sepia. Just putting in the background. I'm keeping the far bank very soft. I've got the paper on a board at a slight angle so the water runs, and if you can let the water run down and do some of the work for you. The watercolor works best when you don't interfere too much with it, don't muck about with it. I'm just bringing this wash down, leaving a few sky holes. Working quite fast. This is Saunders Waterford 140 pounds rough paper that I'm using. And I just use regular masking tape onto a board, which works fine as long as you take it off quite quick afterwards. Don't leave it on for days because you'll have trouble getting it off. It will take the surface of the paper off. Now I'm going over the trees on the left hand side here as well. That's just going to be a first wash on there. Once again, putting on a wash, leaving a few sky holes and not fiddling about with it. The brush I'm using is an Escoda Ultimo, size 14. I've just invested in some new brushes, all Escoda. I do like the make. They're not that expensive. They keep a nice point and they last quite a long time. Somebody like me that does quite a lot of paintings. Just starting to bring in a little bit of the reflection there too, which has got sepia in it. You'll see I'm using a large palette, John Pike palette, and I leave pools of paint colour on it that I dip into and work with. Just bringing down this reflection. I'm using quite a limited palette here. The cooler mixes be for the distance and the warmer mixes will be in the foreground. I find that limiting your colours helps everything feel unified. I notice that beginners often use too many colours and the painting loses its harmony. I think you need to think in terms of temperature rather than colour names. Cool recedes and warm advances. Now this is cadmium yellow, and French ultramarine. Starting to make a really nice dark green there, and adding some raw sienna to give it more of a yellow bias. Now I'm starting to block in the tree masses here. I'm not doing individual trees. If you do that, the painting starts to become busy. You just group all the shapes together. I think that creates unity and rhythm. I spend quite a bit of time planning the where the trees are going to be before I actually start painting. And as I come down the tree, you'll notice that I'm leaving the areas where I've put a pencil line in. By breaking up the tree area like that, it gives me a chance to work a little bit slower on the masses. You see now that I'm working on the left hand side of this trunk. And that means when I come to do the right hand side of it, I don't have to worry if that's dried too much. Just bringing it down, varying the colour. We'll be going over most of this again. Very much using this very nice point on the brush. And just sometimes letting it just dance across the surface. I think it always shows when you use confident strokes when you're doing watercolours. I mean, if you get it wrong a bit, sometimes it's better to have a confident stroke than one that's a bit too precise. Adding in some sap green. Putting in my tree shapes. Being mindful of the outlines that I've actually drawn and sticking to them. All the time I'm thinking about not just blocking it all in, leaving the trunks, leaving some spaces where you'd see through the tree mess. Trying to avoid it just being blocks of colour everywhere. And also dipping into other colours like Payne's grey to darken it up. Making this tree mass darker on the right hand side where it's more in the shade. It's nice just dropping the darker colours in, letting it blend a bit, wet into wet. And now bringing that darker colour into the central part of the tree mass. Working quickly, but I still have to be accurate and not go over those tree trunks that I've put a pencil mark into. It doesn't matter if I leave it slightly too wide, because I'll be going over the trunks at the end of the painting and I can narrow them up. But once I make them too narrow, that's it. There's not much I can do about it. Just bringing this down now. It's going to be nice and dark, this area, the heart of the tree mass, but I don't have to worry too much as long as it's reasonably dark. So I'm going to go over again with some really dark colours with a second wash. You'll also see with my time in here, I'm working so that I don't have to stop and dry areas yet. I did have a think about things before I started about where I'm going to start, what I'm going to paint, where my hand's going to be. As I paint with the board fairly flat, my hand tends to be on the paper quite a bit, and I do tend to hold the brush like a pen. I know I was told hold the ends of the brush, but I can't paint like that. I think once you paint for a while, you just get your own style and your own how you're comfortable. Payne's grey in this mixture now, darkened it right up. It will dry lighter, and I will be going over it again. Just looking to get it really, really dark in the heart of this tree mess. And pretty much the same colour going across. Still a little bit wet, this green, so it's blended in quite well. But I'm not overly worried, so we'll be getting a second wash. The brush I'm using now is an Escoda Perla size 10. And the paints I'm using are Winsor & Newton. And I've started to use some of Jackson's own make artist grade watercolour paints. I've heard good reports about them, and I'm giving them a try. I do quite like them. Have good coverage. And they will last a long time. And by that I mean on the painting when it's displayed. Just varying the tones, using this large pour of dark paint on the bottom left of the palette. Now this is a colour called Jaune Brilliant, J-U-A-U-N-E. Jaune. Brilliant. Which I think it's called John Brilliant. Basically raw sienna and white. Colour I love to use. And I dipped it in that dark colour. And that'll look great as a kind of sandy shoreline colour. And now just a watery mixture of that, mostly water, just breaking it up a little bit on that shoreline. Still haven't had to dry anything off yet. Raw sienna, cadmium yellow, sap green, putting in the reflections of this tree group on the right hand side. I've marked a line there where I want them to be. And then just kind of doing my own thing within that space. Dipping into colours, raw sienna, knowing that this will blend in and get lighter. Just working quite fast, just using my instinct really, using that Jean Bouillon mix and grey. Working fast like this, it's sometimes quite difficult to commentate because you're just working on your instinct and what you think's going to be right. Just glancing at the colour pools and knowing that the colour that you put on will be drying a bit lighter. Now this is dry on the left hand side now. Just coming down with the wash, Payne's grey. This is the nearer group of trees on the left hand side. Put a few dots and dabs at the top there. There's a bit of foliage. Using the size 10 Skoda. Not just rushing this, although I'm working quite fast, I am thinking about leaving spaces, keeping the wash working its way down. And keeping a nice random edge on the right hand side there, something that will look attractive. Now going into the mixer, just working quite fast now, just blocking this in. If it's darker at the top than it is as you come down, and I want to make this a little bit misty, so I've got some clean tissue here. Just going to lay it on the top very gently, just tap it, and there we go, there's the mist. That's the way I like to do it. Now I'm going back over the trees on the right hand side. You can see I'm just going into that large pool of colours. The top right, the greens and the siennas. Just bringing it along, darkening it up. Being mindful of my white areas. Not working so fast that I cover everything up, but just fast enough so that I can have control when I come to these branches. Keep them white. This is a painting that would keep the purists happy. I don't always just do pure watercolour, but this is. Nothing else other than technique. Pencil and watercolours. Just planning things out beforehand so that I don't have to use any white. Sap green, Payne's grey. Letting that merge with the raw sienna colour. Working right to left. Still working fast enough that the edges are wet as I come down. So I've not used too many brushes on this. I'm using a size 8 Escoda as well, and a number 2 rigger I'll be using near the end. So there's only really 4 brushes. Getting some real darks now. This is mostly Payne's grey. I want the heart of this tree mass to be really dark. Nice dark against light with these white tree trunks. I'd have to be careful sometimes when I'm painting on the right hand side of my paintings like this, with the palette so close. I have the palette as close as this so that it fits in with the camera angle, but sometimes I end up dipping my hand in the paint wells and dragging it across the paper if I don't notice I've done it. So I have to be careful of that. The board is slightly raised, so I'm a little bit away from it, but sometimes I get carried away. in the moment and forget. I've ruined paintings before now. And you'll see my style of painting here, where I kind of have this fast flicking motion, which is just the way I do it. I've done a lot of painting over the years, and this is just comfortable. I don't really think about it. But what I do think about is being accurate. Merging those colours and just keeping those white trunks clear of any paint. I left a space at the top of the trees there where I'll be putting another colour in when it's all dried. Not too many washes on here. It's only going to be a couple of washes on everything. Put too many on, you kind of lose that glow. And don't be tempted to use anything like black to get your darks. It does have a tendency to flatten things. Trusty finger there, smudge it a bit, blended it in. This is the size 8 Skoda. Quite a new brush, lovely tip on it. I'm just doing this, putting in the boatman. First wash, neutral tint. And its reflection, same colour. And there's the ore that he's got in the water and its reflection. I haven't got the small rigger brush out yet. It's large enough that I can work with this slightly bigger brush. Not going to do too much in the distance here. Just put a few marks. Shoreline is where the shoreline is. Now that's dried there, so I'm just going to go in with a very watery wash or sienna. and then using the number 8 brush to putting the distant shores, riverbank. Notice it's kind of pointing at the boatman, drawing your eye towards him. He's the star of the show. Chambouillon, bit of dark colour. Second wash, bit of wet and wet. It's been a bit impressionistic here with the brush strokes. Popping darks here and there. Raw sienna sap green. Putting a second wash on this reflection from the tree mess. Lots of water. Nice and strong. And then go into a more grey colour there with the reflection of that riverbank there. Just dipping into the Payne's grey, putting it straight into that wet mixture, letting that flow. Now I've dried things off. And this is a putty rubber. Make sure that everything's completely dry. You smudge these white trunks with this dark colour, it'll be very difficult to get rid of it. And I don't want to be using any white in this painting. This is pure watercolour. This is a number 2 rigger, Skoda, neutral tint. I'm just going to add a few darks here and there. I've marked a few of these tips of the tree trunks. I'm adding a few of my own that I think are necessary as I go. Just use a bit of restraint. Use a bit of restraint when you're doing this. Putting some dark on the left hand side of this trunk. And the right hand side, and just making the trunks a little bit thinner with this dark colour. Losing some of the thickness of the trunks here. That's why it's better to leave them nice and chunky so you can go in and make them narrower afterwards. and then nothing more than a few quick marks, a few kind of glancing blows with the tip of this brush. Once again, smudging it with my finger. Just going over the boatman again, darkening that up. Tiny, but he's tiny, but he's the focal point. Keep him simple, just a few shapes. Don't overwork your small figures. Suggestion is always stronger than detail. Putting in some darks on this, on the riverbank. Resisting the temptation to go too mad with this, with these darks. And this is just a little bit of the lighter colour on top of the trees. Composition was simple, but it's full of opportunities to learn: edge control, timing, value, colour, temperature, and most of all, restraint. I think if you focus on those fundamentals, you can paint almost anything. And remember, this is pure watercolour. There's no gimmicks, no shortcuts, just brush, pigment, water, and a few thoughtful decisions. And there's the finished painting. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll have a go. Until next time. Bye-bye.